Hey, Goodwin. Welcome to the Love Your Bod Pod. How are you today?
I'm doing so good and I'm so happy to be here. Really excited.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
one of my favorite quotes is you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. So, you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down and has made all the difference in my life. And that's by Steve Jobs. So, Goodwin,
Mm. Mm.
so happy to have you here as well, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Connect the dots for us. So, how did you get to where you are now doing this really incredible work that you're doing to help other people?
Wow. Even when you were speaking that quote, it was totally feeling good in my body. I'm like, that's a really, really beautiful way to put it. And yeah, connecting the dots back, it all really started when I was playing college soccer and I started to receive concussions. I started to get these brain injuries through playing and just the physical contact aspect of it. And it spiraled me into this depressive state, struggling with anxiety, chronic pain, and just really feeling, I mean, rock bottom, I guess, totally. Like, I was losing the sport that I had played my whole life. I had a lot of identity in that. And then just the emotional, physical, spiritual aspects of being in chronic pain. Um, that's where it started. And so through that, I just started to get really curious. I, at the time, was reaching out to just different, oh my gosh, anything I could do. That's when I started my yoga journey. I started to look at what I was eating, how much I was drinking, just really the holistic view of like, okay, everything in my life needs to change because things aren't going right. And then I ended up going to IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which was kind of the kickstart of like, whoa, so many of these things, what I knew to be true about everything, I need is within my body. Everything is connected, just really taking out a holistic view. Started to click in that school, and I just knew I want to help people, period. And just feeling so connected in who they are and who their life. And I went on my own healing journey. And through that, it was just, yeah, I don't see another way where I'm not helping people um, heal their body within and live the life they absolutely desire. So that's kind of where it started. And over there, it's taken a lot of different turns. I, started at first holistic health coaching, just a lot of food and body focused, and so passionate, still am, about that whole field. And then it turned a little bit more into the like in the emotional realm and the embodiment work and that's my dog Oakley and that kind of things, and then found breath work, which has been huge in my own transformation and offering that to my clients. And so now I combine the gifts of coaching and breath work and just really offering both the body-based approach and different mindset tools. But yeah, it's just been this amazing, like, beautiful melting pot of these things throughout my journey and client work. So yeah, that's some of the dots. That's connecting some of the dots. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. We're going to get into some of it earlier. I'd love to ask you about some of those key things that you said. And I'm wondering if you can share specifically a bit more about what your struggles with food and body image were
Mm,
specifically.
oh yeah, this was so being an athlete my entire life and then playing college sports. It's a really weird thing because when you go to college, you're needing to gain, or to play college soccer in these sports, you're needing to gain all this weight to play and to really sustain the amount of practices and weightlifting. And so they encourage you to eat all of this food. And it's very confusing. And so a lot of the times then what happened to me was my body completely different. Like, I mean, my body totally changed. No one really talks about that. That's going to happen. And even on the teammate side, like no one speaks about it. And I struggled deeply with binge and emotional eating. Anything that was going on, like whether it was like a test, something in practice, just any of the stress came in, I immediately opened up my fridge. How much can I eat so I cannot feel this right now? That was for years. And now looking back, I mean, that started very on in childhood, and just different ways of how my family has been too. And then when put under that much stress in collegiate athletics, it just blew up. And then when I ended soccer, then my body changed again. And then it was like no one prepares you for that. And I was still really heavily emotionally eating. And I just remember these times where I would be eating and in my head, I would know that I was doing this and I just could not stop. Like I felt, and then I have these pictures, I look back and I would take pictures of how bloated I was because I just was so uncomfortable. And oh my gosh, yeah, that was really where my healing journey began, was with food and my body, just like having full acceptance and just starting to really forgive myself for those things and start to move forward. But yeah, that was a big part. Yeah.
Okay. I think a lot of people can really relate to several of the things that you had said, particularly where one, any type of emotion, they're like immediately like run towards the fridge to see what they can eat to suppress, numb, avoid, and cope. But then also sort of that like out of body experience where like you're eating the food and you're eating the food. And then you're looking at yourself and you're like, I don't want to be doing this. Why am I doing this?
Totally.
Talk to us about that. Like, like
Yeah.
what helped you with this, like what helped you
Yeah.
get to the place where you are now, where you're clearly not doing that, and
Yeah.
what was the first step? Like, what's kind of the first
Mm.
step, it sounds like, was maybe realizing it was a problem, but then, kind of take us along that journey with you a little bit.
Totally. So the first step was definitely just coming from completely autopilot, where like that was the thing my body did. Emotion, boom, fridge, open, how much consume. Um that was the way. And then I started to, yeah, bring in that awareness, and um was just really, it was totally like floating above myself. I'm seeing, and at first there was a lot of judgment of just like, I remember this one specific time, I don't know if something happened, but I was all of a sudden driving to McDonald's, and I'm going into the McDonald's drive-thru. I buy like a McFlurry fries and I bring it home. And as I'm eating, I'm like, I just start sobbing because that was one of the big turning points, I will have to say. And I just was like, what is going on? I don't understand. Like, I can't even believe, like, it was just complete, like, how did I get to this point? And so a couple of the things that really helped me guide myself out of that was, and I learned so much of this from my holistic health coaching course in the beginning, but really beginning to sit down with my food and slowing down and allowing myself to experience what I'm eating, and like chewing slowly, tasting, how does this feel when, because I'm a huge foodie, absolutely love it. Like I like that is, oh God, it's so good. It's everything. Like yeah, big foodie. So I'm like, I started to notice, like, how does this feel in my body when I'm eating this? Like, why do I love the taste of pad thai? Why is that so good to me? How can I started to become really curious of like, how can I savor this in such a deep way, and then starting to bring a gratitude practice to my food too, of just feeling so grateful that I'm able to eat this beautiful meal, or this nourishment that's about to, like, honestly, like really talking to my food. bringing it alive instead of just this thing that I do and I shove it down to take away and to take away something. Like, well, food gets to add to my life. Like, can I be so grateful? Can I, yeah, allow it to move through me? And um starting to slow down and then starting to talk about it, starting to tell other people my experience of like, when I go to the fridge, this is how it feels for me. And I feel helpless and it's confusing because we have to eat every day no matter what. So, and I started to talk to other women, my friends, my mom, what's your relationship like with food? And that was really healing because I'm just like, whoa, we struggle with the same things I found in my circle. I was like, wow. So that was really healing because then I could talk about it while I was eating with my people. I'm just like, oh, like I want to eat this whole thing, but I don't know if that's actually what my body needs. And just really verbalizing it allowed for some of that negative self-talk, those mental loops that I just could not get out of to integrate and feel more whole, I guess. But yeah, those are some of my things.
Yeah. So really understanding that you were on autopilot. It sounds like you had a little bit of a rock bottom moment with the McDonald's McFlurry. I think that's very relatable to a lot of people. You started to acknowledge what you were doing and then bring in mindfulness practices of slowing down, being present, receiving pleasure, and really being present with the whole experience of food. And then also talking about it helped release the shame, which I definitely think at some point on this podcast, I have said I started to heal when I started to talk.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And what about the emotional piece?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure big emotions didn't necessarily stop happening.
Yeah.
So how did you start to reckon with that piece? What was that process like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been a beautiful process because after moving through some of this healing with food, I was like, whoa, like, so, okay, I'm starting to heal in food, but what do I do with my emotions? How do I handle this experience? And that really felt like the next step to me. And so I started to find ways where, because I used to channel my emotions through playing sports. I'm like, I feel something, no matter if I'm angry, happy, sad, I can go and play and it can move through my body. So I was like, amazing. So if that works so well for me growing up, how can I bring that back into something that really serves me? And over the past couple years of my food and body journey, it's shifted into many things. And now I've just come to the realization over these past couple months is I move my emotions, period, through movement, breath, sound. And I didn't know that that was like the keys for me at the time. I started to dive in to yoga. A lot of movement helps me so much with emotions, but really anything I can go into my body, recognize what's happening, have the presence with the emotion. Interesting. Okay. Instead of, opening the fridge, numbing, I can bring in, interesting. This is what's going on. Okay. What does it need? Does it need to be moved, to be expressed? Do I need to be in stillness with this? And really bringing that in. And through those key things, like I said, the breath, movement, and sound, I've been able to, and now I've developed this beautiful kind of like intuitive dance practice where I can be so present and express the emotion in those three things. And it's I feel so much better. I feel alive, to me it feels like the opposite of numbing out. So that's my practice now, but that took a journey. I mean, that's starting really simple of just being aware of the emotion. I love the question, well, what does it need right now? Interesting, I'm feeling this shame, anger. Well, what do I need? Because we don't even think we get to ask ourselves that. Sometimes we forget. So bringing that in and then creating that toolbox so you can move it through.
Yeah. I don't think we're taught to I really don't think we're taught to like feel our feelings. I think that as a culture, we're taught to pretend like everything's fine and suppress and shove down. And
Mm.
like, we learn this from our authority figures. We learn this from teachers. We learn this from capitalism. It's like, you're not feeling well, buy this car.
Yes,
You don't like this thing about you, buy this thing.
totally.
And parents are like, smile, boys don't cry. Like, these are all ways in which we're told that like we should be able to control and suppress and make our unwanted, uncomfortable internal experiences like go away.
Absolutely.
But that's not how it works. We all turn to maladaptive coping mechanisms. We binge, we drink, we do drugs, we gamble, we shop, we overwork, we seek attention from other people, we scroll on Instagram, right? Like, we do all of these things to make these difficult private experiences go away, which doesn't actually make them go away in the long run.
No. Mhm.
And so now you've actually really learned the actual solution. And I would argue that like sound and breath and movement, like actually being with the feelings and feeling them, is the way to feel better for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yes, right. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's a gift. Um, and they become alive. And it's so interesting. Emotions that we consider bad, air quotes, is become so powerful and healing. When I feel anger, rage, sadness, I can move it and it actually feels like pleasure in the body, because it's like, whoa, like I'm alive. I'm feeling into this experience instead of numbing, shoving and disassociating and not participating in this human experience. So it gets to be this really beautiful experience you get to navigate when your emotions, your feelings get to be a gift. It's wild, really. And we're not taught this stuff, right? Imagine if that was to be taught. Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes sense to me that you said that you're really feeling this sense of aliveness and that you're just enjoying life so much more. And that being able to experience your emotions in a powerful way has been pleasurable for you, because I firmly believe that you cannot numb emotions in one direction. If you numb the positive, if you numb the negative, air quotes, you numb the positive. The extent to which you experience pain is often the extent to which you experience pleasure.
Mm.
And so it makes sense that you're exposing yourself to the full range of emotionality. And as a result, you're experiencing joy and pleasure and ease and aliveness and vibrancy and happiness at a higher frequency. Because it's like, as deep as you're willing to go into the pain is the extent to which you can go into the pleasure. It's like you can't numb it in just one direction.
Yes. Yeah. In my client space, I call it living in the full spectrum. Right? Can we extend? Yeah. If we go into the pain and the pleasure, how wide, how big can we take it? Oh my gosh, how, instead of living in this like tight, it feels very like shove and place and I gotta leave this. It's too, yeah. And this even reminds me to something of like the contracts of contractions and expansions.
Mm.
And it's like within nature, within birth, with so many things exampled in our world, it's the contraction, contraction, contraction. Can you be in it? Can you move through it to feel the pop, the expansion, how big it is? And so it's like moving through those uncomfortable emotions, and there will be that release for the yeah, so good.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm kind of curious here. It doesn't necessarily sound like this was something that you specifically struggled with. And if I'm wrong, correct me.
Yeah.
That it doesn't really sound like you were necessarily resistant to healing, or that you were pretending like you didn't have a problem. Or was that the case? Or was it like eventually you realized like, oh, this is a problem? Or was there a period of time where you were kind of like living with this disordered eating and living with this binge eating and emotional eating, where you weren't really fully willing to admit it to yourself or to admit that you had a struggle? Was that something that it kind of went through for you, that you kind of were like present to the struggle before you took action to heal?
Oh, totally. I mean, I would go ahead and say I struggled with aspects of emotional eating growing up, but it just amplified in college, and it took like 3 years for me to be like, it was a very much ongoing thing, and I was totally resistant, acting like it wasn't happening, did not take action at all. I mean, I just wasn't even willing to go there. I was like, and it felt normal, to be completely honest. It just felt like something, that's what I did, that I feel. And well, how much can I eat now? How much? And then once I started to talk about it, like we said, talking to heal it, my friends started just commenting on like, yeah, we've noticed some of these patterns, and we've even wondered, what's going on, which was really interesting, because I was like, I had no idea, like, what, this was my normal. So yeah, there was totally a point where I just wasn't even willing to, I didn't want to go there. It was not an option. Yeah.
Okay. So was it just kind of like I was unwilling and it wasn't an option until it was no longer an option to pretend it wasn't an option?
Exactly. Where, yeah, I think the frequency of my binge episodes was just, and this was at the time where the height of struggling with depression and anxiety was so present. And I was also using marijuana to cope, and I was have these chronic pain headaches. I would smoke and then immediately walk myself to the kitchen and consume and now I'm like numbing, consuming totally. And those became so frequent that there came to a point was like, yeah, whoa, something, yeah, needs to, yeah.
It got to a point where you couldn't really ignore it anymore.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I couldn't hide it either too. Like I was hiding these episodes, and then yeah, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So kind of going back a little bit to what you were saying about like the emotions and movement and breath and sort of feeling. In your Instagram bio, you say you help women heal through the body to live in their full truth of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question is, why do we need to heal through the body? Like how'd you get to that truth?
Mm-hmm.
And then two, what does that actually mean for somebody who's kind of like, I don't know what she's talking about?
Yeah, fantastic question. So truly the why we need to heal through the body is because I was at that point of, okay, well, how do I heal? The first thing I knew was, let's go to the personal development world. I need to mindset my way through this. Like, what do I need to do? And it became this really act of, and I'm not even shaming this because it is kind of the catalyst of what got me through this point and what brought me here. And mindset work is so beautiful too. There's totally a time and a place, but I was in this forced hustle, like everything's good, everything's okay, my life's amazing, even though I'm still struggling with chronic pain and eating like all these things, like I can do this, and just this really grind, hustle, force work. And it got me to a certain place, yes. And then I was still living, still doing my normal things, and I just felt like something was off. And I'm like, and it really came to the point where I don't feel this connection to my mind and my body. I feel like I'm having this totally separate experience of like, I'm a superwoman and can do anything, but yet I feel lost, empty, drained, confused in my body. And that's where I started to become curious. And I'm like, well, what is this? What do I need to do? So it was mindset first, and now what is it? And that's where breathwork came online. That's where just again, the moving the emotions and being so present with my body. And I learned through these different things I started to study that we hold so much in our body, that our body is this beautiful, incredibly intelligent system that stores and remembers and holds different things. And through healing that through the body, what I mean by that is bringing the presence, bringing the awareness to what is in our physical beings, and even deeper to our spiritual being of our whole self. is, I mean, we are limitless when we allow for that presence. So I mean, healing through the body to me means, I mean, really taking a holistic approach, but even deeper on so many aspects, on how your body reacts and how it responds to everything in your life, and using it as, um, I mean, it's magical. It's the greatest toolbox we have, really, using it, um, to really, yeah, I mean, just to really take inventory of our lives, and notice the stuck points, and notice where we have stored, um, limiting beliefs, just past traumas, things that past energies that we literally don't even know we are holding on to, that are preventing us from living in that full, I think I say, yeah, living in your truth, your full self, things in the body limiting us from that. So that was a very just wordy wordy way of saying that. I mean, the body is so intelligent, and it's not, we can't just do it through the mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there, like you said, mindset work is fantastic. There's a time and a place for it. It can get us to a certain point. Like, it absolutely plays a role in the healing. I think it's often the place where most people start, because it feels a lot safer to be in the mind. I think a lot of us, because, we're not always really parented with parents who know how to be with the full range of emotions, or to support us in processing and feeling our feelings and comforting us in the ways that we need. No shame to our parents. They probably weren't taught it either. Right. And so a lot of us, they say, like, in trauma recovery, that we kind of become this big floating head above our body. And we have all of the thoughts and the chaos that's in there. And mindset work can help us, not be this massive, big floating head. But at some point, you have to just go a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a really scary thing for people, to actually, like, feel anxiety, to actually feel shame, to actually feel embarrassment, right? So, like, all of these labels are labels for physical sensations arising in the body.
Yes.
And when we're not willing to feel them, that's when we go to all of those coping mechanisms that we were talking about. And so true healing, like you said, to be able to be the fullness of who you are, is really going to require a willingness to really feel the full range of those emotions. Like you said, to really find in your body where those limiting beliefs are stored, where you might have collected energy from other people, where stored trauma may have lived. So you posted this Instagram reel, I think, I don't know, yesterday or whatever, about how, like, when we suppress emotions and we don't feel them, they get stored in the body as pain. And eventually, based on Joe Dispenza's work, eventually that becomes disease, that becomes cancer, that becomes all these problems that we struggle with.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen that through my own body. And even noticing, yes, I had some physical trauma from the collisions, but noticing how long they were and how much I was holding on to. And around those, it simply, and what you said earlier brought me to this, was when I started to go deeper from my mindset work, it started to get in my body. I realized why I didn't want to get my body is because I didn't feel safe in there at all. I was like, whoa, this is the last place I want to be, because I don't feel safe here. So that's when the dissociating would come in. And that's where, like you just said, these points where we store so much, yes, can become disease, and just in cancer, and oh gosh, can manifest in, I do hold the belief that things that happen in the body, it's so much more than what we think, right? I mean, there's an emotional, spiritual, and there's so much. So I do believe that some of these intense headaches was because I had stored so much that needed to come to the surface. So yeah.
Yeah, I went to an advanced retreat of Joe Dispenza earlier this year. And one of the things that I feel like I've learned it in other places as well, but most recently from Joe Dispenza. And we learned this in I learned this from reading The Body Keeps the Score, is that traumatized people, and we've all experienced some type of trauma in our lives, when that trauma and those pains and those wounds go unhealed, one of the ways the body can try to get our attention is through somatic symptoms.
Mhm.
And so often people will have somatic symptoms for which there is no physical cause. Like IBS is a very common one that people struggle with. Fibromyalgia is a really common one, digestive issues. Well, that's IBS, chronic headaches or whatever. And there's like no physical, like you can't find a physical source of it, right? Or you have back pain, but you're like, I didn't get injured. Often this is the way that the body's trying to get your attention, that there's pains and wounds that need to be healed.
Oh.
And when you've grown up in a society that has made the body an unsafe place because of fat phobia, because of the beauty myth, because of how much pressure we put on women to look a certain way, and how we've been programmed to believe that these naturally occurring things on our bodies, like cellulite or stretch marks or fat tissue, is somehow a flaw and a problem, of course the body's not going to feel safe.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we're treated as this mechanic being that, if you have a back problem, go see a back doctor, and maybe you did something. Sure, that might be the case. But maybe it's something deeper. There's this internal wisdom that's happening, that can we listen? Can we be a student of our own body? Can I learn what it's telling me? And that is a journey that I believe that we go on for the rest of our lives. That's like, buckle up, like, here we go. Like, just like, once you learn the art of and always learning too. I'm always learning of listening to my body and seeing, okay, well, what do you need? How can I be with you? I mean, that's the forever work.
Yeah. Body wisdom. Yeah. Body wisdom. Yeah. One of the things that I really love from acceptance and commitment therapy from Dr. Stephen Hayes is he talks about the work of willingness, and it's the willingness to feel our emotions instead of suppressing them down, trying to turn down the pain of them, but instead be more willing to be with them, because that's the way through. That's the way. But one of the things that he says is that it's not about not feeling those emotions or never having that pain be present, but it's more about transforming your relationship to them. So it's more about transforming your relationship to shame, to guilt, to remorse, to anger, to embarrassment. And so if you were to actually like interview those emotions as if they were actual entities, like actual people, if we were to interview your shame, how would shame say you've been towards it? If we were to ask anger how you are towards it, what would it say? Would it say you've been loving and compassionate and curious and welcoming, right? Or have you been hostile? Have you ignored it? Have you resented it? Have you pushed it away? Have you told it to shut up and go away? And so much of the work is not about never having these negative again, having these uncomfortable emotions come up again, but it's more about transforming your relationship to them, which is exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, I was about to say, wow, I need to look up this guy, because this is so amazing. It's right. If we're gonna live in the full spectrum, if all emotion is, if there's no scale, right? If the good and the bad, it doesn't exist, if we completely dissolve that. One of my favorite things I teach in my program is one of the best teachers for how to express emotions through the body. And this is what I'm talking about when healing through the body. It's go look at a toddler, go to the grocery store, go look at a toddler. When they're angry, they're flailing their arms, they're pissed, they're like, they're literally using breath movement, sound, you can see it. And then the emotions are moving through their body, and then they're like, okay, cool, like, and that is them. They haven't had the conditionings of society come in and tell them, no, you're not allowed to feel this, you're not allowed to feel anger, you can't be upset, don't do this. They haven't had that yet. So their body is doing its natural thing. They're happy on the playgrounds. you see them squealing, jumping up and down, like, and the cool thing is, even that, the physical response in the body of when they're upset and they're crying that something, mom took their treat away, or they're on their friends at the playground jumping up in joy, their experience is actually very similar. But the thing is, they're allowing it to be present, they're moving it through them. And so they too feel anger and joy the same way. It gets to be a pleasure to experience for them because it moves through. And then they're like, oh, wow, I feel good now. So it's this really amazing concept that we already know. You were born with that natural intelligence. And like you said, society has come in with the beauty industry, with that probably, I mean, everything of just, this is not acceptable. This is how you should be. Quiet down, sit down, don't say anything, don't feel, shame is bad, and all these things. And I mean, it's coming up now. So one of my favorite examples, go watch some toddlers, and it's that's the way.
Yeah, it's very poignant. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is self-love in your mind? How would you describe it or define it? What does that mean to you?
It's changed so many times over the years, but to me in this moment, it feels like a journey. It truly feels like a journey where I'm in a constant discovery, opening up, curiosities of who I am, what all the parts of my body are, discovering different parts of me, discovering different parts of my mind. It's really this act of discovery and not glamorizing it, of kind of like you said, of, of shame. It's not bad. How would you treat it? And it's like, just even loving those parts of myself. So it's a discovery. Yeah.
On your Instagram, you had said confidence is a learned skill and not a personality trait, which I think is counter to what most people believe. Mm-hmm. So I just love, like, what do you mean that confidence is a learned skill, not a personality trait? And how would somebody go about learning to be more confident?
Yeah, I mean, this is an amazing question. I used to believe that to be confident meant that you were the person that could be on stage. You had to be born that way. Oh, she's born. We think a lot of the times, or this was in my experience, that I thought confident equaled outgoing. That was a personality trait that you were born with. And okay, well, those people were confident. And yeah, they're the people who can grab the microphone, sing karaoke. And I love to connect with people, but that did not necessarily come natural to me. And that's what we perceive a lot of the times, is that you either have it or you don't, which is not true. In my experience, I've found it's this skill that you can cultivate. It's a muscle. It's truly practicing, putting yourself in environments that, because at one point I would not have been able to do this, been on a podcast. Absolutely not. I would have been terrified. I would have been so scared. But that was something I admired about people who did those things. And I was like, interesting. Well, can I learn to be a different way? Can I choose something for myself? Can I choose that and really learn it? And so it began practicing. And one of the best things was just showing up and talking on my Instagram. Again, in the beginning, I was so scared to do that. Absolutely not. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And so just talking on my stories to then, I mean, and this was a little bit more professionally, but yeah, reaching out to people who I admired, can we connect? Or in like my personal life with dating, like, oh my gosh, in the beginning of like dating, I mean, that was just like, a no for me too. And so it's a skill, practicing. I'm like, well, I want to meet people, so I'm going to practice this. So in really simple terms, that's kind of really exercising that muscle. Mm-hmm. If you desire it, you can learn it, period. So if you are desiring to feel more confident, well, what areas of your life do you want to feel more confident in? And can you small steps begin to practice that? And then you will look back way quicker than you think and be like, oh, whoa. And then the crazy thing is that builds the confidence for the next thing you want to go be more confident in. So Yeah, that's really my philosophy around confidence.
Yeah, no, we're in alignment. I think you rarely feel confident in your ability to do something until you've done the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so confidence is a result of experience, like you're saying, and it's a result of continuing to put yourself in those situations
Absolutely. Yeah.
that result in you growing and becoming more confident in those types of situations,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. Like, yeah, and then it doesn't seem as scary because you're like, oh, I've been here before. It seemed really hard. I showed up and then whoa, I got the result. Yeah.
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 Yeah, totally. Like I've been coaching now since 2017. And when I think back to like how much of a like how anxiety ridden I would be before every single coaching call, because I was just like not confident in myself and I was so new at it. And I just was like, I hope I don't fuck it up. And I hope I say the right thing. And I hope they feel like it's worth it. And I hope that they feel that they get benefit out of it and that it's helping them. And it was just like, I had to work through all of that anxiety and that discomfort and that lack of confidence. And now, like, I don't have anxiety before a coaching call. I've had thousands of them and I'm
Right.
confident on them. Why? Like you said, through practice, through taking action.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very tangible thing too. So we think of confidence as this elusive, oh, she has it, it does, and when you start to take the small steps, it becomes very realistic. Whoa, this is possible for me. Yeah.
Body confidence, I think, is the same way too. Like with everything, it's like you have to slowly take actions and do the scary things that you're afraid to do because of how you feel about your body, and you gain body confidence as a result.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally believe that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'd love to just talk a little bit about breathwork since that's how we met.
Yes.
We met in pause. We were in the same pod together, going through our training to become facilitators. So how did you find breathwork? And you had alluded to this earlier, that it's been a really big part of your own personal journey and healing. So, how did you stumble across it and what has the impact? Kind of like take us like before breathwork, after breathwork.
Mm, yeah. It was really in that breathwork was the thing first, that kind of that mindset shift where I was like, I got the mindset down. I'm doing all the things. And then I was like, but why do I still feel like shit in my body? And breathwork was the first tool that I was like, I've heard about this breathwork thing before. And maybe that will help me get in my body. And so the first person was Stevie Wright, her breath channel. So I joined the breath channel. I mean, amazing. Blew my socks out of the fucking water. That was the thing of like, I mean, I'm saying it really exciting right now because it was amazing, but like I was sobbing my absolute eyes out because that was the realization of like, oh my God, like I don't feel safe in my body. And this is what, I mean, that was like, whoa. That's where that all came up. And so I just started to practice it, and I would do these videos, and I loved it because it was amazing because you had these 20-minute, 5-minute videos that you could do. And I noticed the shift immediately. I would come with an emotion, um, or wanting to feel another way, and I could be present with my body. I could bring it in, or I could move it and feel it and come out being like, whoa. And so that was really the beginning. And then I'm trying to think of the timeline of how long. And then it was about 6 months later, I joined one of Samantha Skelly's, like the owner of Pause, um, her workshop, maybe an hour workshop. And that was the first time I had breathed for an hour. And then after that one, I was completely sobbing, had all the things. And then I think the next day I scheduled an appointment to apply for the facilitator program. And then within the week I had paid the money, secured the spot, like all the things. So it was less than a year of like all of this happened. And it's been absolutely changed my life.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. Stevie's been on the podcast. I worked with Stevie one-on-one. She was my mentor for a while, and the breath channel's great. And yeah, I came to breathwork through, not originally through Stevie, right? I feel like I found out about breathwork and did it before Stevie, but Stevie was like, I feel like the catalyst that I was like, what is this? I need to take this seriously. Oh,
Mhm.
I need to offer this to people. Like, it's like, so I can really relate to that for sure. And I have an affiliate link for the breath channel. So I'll make sure I put it in the show notes for anybody listening.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a great resource for sure.
Totally. She's awesome. I saw that you'd interviewed her. Just absolutely, yeah, yeah, love it.
Yes. All right, Goodwin. This is an amazing. You are an absolute joy. I have loved following you on Instagram. I feel like there's a lot more that we could talk about, like,
Mhm.
like even the experience that you had of being topless in the, what are those things called?
Hot springs.
Hot springs, right? And like we could talk
Yeah.
about like cold dipping and all of those things. Like I feel like there's maybe you'll have to come back for a part two, but I feel like people should go follow you on Instagram so that they can see your juiciness and your goodness.
Oh,
You're enrolling for a program right now. Talk to us about self-love mastery and give us all the deets on where people can find you and learn more and connect with you.
absolutely. Yeah. So the program I am enrolling right now, so it actually was previously called Self-Love Mastery. And through and I might have even put that on the form because it's very new to me. This is the new name. So it's self-healing mastery because basically, if you've listened to this whole episode, it's really because it became so much deeper. In the beginning, it was a lot of mindset work um and through self-love and through all these things, and then like we've talked about, through the emotional body, through breath work, just all the things, it became deeper through the body, and that's where self-healing mastery came about. And so this, I'm so excited because it's really combining the two things I love the most, coaching and breath work. And there are modules, there's the workbooks, but then my favorite part is it's a 3-month journey, and you get to customize how many coaching calls or how many transformative breathwork calls you want. And it's really for the woman who is maybe an empath or who feels deeply, and maybe some people pleasing tendencies, those kinds of things, and just knows she is meant for more, knows, feels the pull, and doesn't maybe feel like she has the tools or the community or the space or the accountability to do the damn thing, move through with it. A lot of my clients, either I say this all the time, it's the three things. Either they move somewhere, they end a relationship, or they get a new job, quit their job. And it's like those are the kind of women who are in the group. They are powerful feelers themselves, and want to connect their mind and body, heal in their emotions, and do the damn thing in their life, live their life in their truth. So that's what it's really all about. And I'm so excited. It starts in January, and 4 women are already in. So it's and they're so amazing. So I'm excited to meet the rest of the squad. So yeah. Yeah.
Hells yeah, I love it. I love it. The woman who knows she's meant for more
Oh,
can relate to that. And what's your Instagram? What's your website? How can people contact you?
yeah. So my Instagram is Goodwin Hope _. And then my website is goodwinhope.com. And the
Amazing.
website is going through an upgrade, so it might feel a little outdated. It talks about self-love mastery. So Instagram definitely is the spot for right now, and the website will be up and running soon.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today, Goodwin. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I hope you got so much value out of this episode with Goodwin Hope. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on other incredible episodes of the Love Your Bod Pod.